The following podcast is scheduled for 1 hour. Introducing your host, sitting in the podcast booth, podcasting out of Southern Maine, with a mic on the boom and a hot take to dish out. Weighing in with the knowledge and passion of a lifelong wrestling fan, he is the reigning, defending, undisputed host of the New England WrestleCast. Give it up for Nate!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 2 of the New England WrestleCast. I am your host, Nate. Big shout out, as always, to Rich Palladino for the awesome intro. Thank you so much, Rich, the voice of New England indie wrestling. Thank you, everybody, first off, for subscribing to, listening to, following episode 1. It's been such an amazing turnout for our first episode, and I really appreciate all of the positive feedback and positive comments, and especially the live chat room from last week. So huge shout out to you guys. Definitely made doing this new venture feel really good. And just like last week, this week we have another great show for you guys. We have an amazing double guest, a tag team from the New England area that I'm very excited to talk to and very excited to have you guys listen to. And then a little bit after that interview, we're going to be talking about my adventures at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy yesterday, where I got my ass kicked. I have always had appreciation for professional wrestling. And I knew that, you know, regardless of, oh, it's fake, it's this, it's that, it hurts. And these people put their bodies on the line every time they go out and entertain you. And for the 4.5 hours that I did it yesterday afternoon, I'm in pain. I hurt. And we're going to talk about that as well. And then I'll give you guys some highlights of what is coming up this weekend and beyond that. But without further ado, I want to introduce the King and Queen of New England, BMT and Ariel, otherwise known as the Monarchy.
You will bend the knee, long live the king and queen. Crowns beaming under the shining lights, the fury strikes with powerful lefts and rights. Unmatched loyalty, other wrestlers can only dream. The Monarchy.
BMT and Ariel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Of course, thanks for coming on. I'm very excited. I've had plenty of opportunities to chat with you guys, doing photographs for Chaotic and whatnot. Big fan of both of you. And when you guys were both so quick to be like, yes, like we'll be guests, new podcast for sure. It was very awesome to experience that feeling. So excited to have you guys on, excited to learn more about you guys and your careers. We have some questions that some of the fans have submitted. So we'll just, we'll kind of start from the beginning and let it flow organically from there. One of my big questions, because it's such a unique dynamic in wrestling, at least to my knowledge, is you guys are a married couple as well as a tag team. And I wonder, like, how does that play into your tag team? Like, obviously there's, the characters that you guys play, and BMT has said some things where I'm like, oh, I wonder if he's going to get smacked for that later.
He usually does.
But what are some of the strengths and perhaps maybe even disadvantages to that type of situation as far as you guys like observe it on a daily basis?
So generally speaking, I mean, we've been really good at separating the two, separating family life from wrestling life. I think one of the biggest disadvantages is that we're both very competitive people. And even though we're a team, we essentially compete with each other because we want to go out there and give our absolute best. And we want to, every time the people see us, for us to be better than we were the last time they saw us. And in order to do that, and by us doing that, get them excited to see us the next time. So when you have two people of that like mindset, and they're on the same team, sometimes, it's, like this weird competitive edge.
Which makes for calling matches really fun sometimes.
Yeah.
Where me and him make faces, and I'm like, okay, you're done.
Yeah.
We're doing this. Okay.
We've called tag matches with teams, and they've given us like the mom and dad awkwardly arguing at dinner look. So it's definitely interesting, but it's not something that's like obnoxious and like uh, overly hostile or an issue. But it's just in our nature. We've always been that way. We've been together 17 years now.
We also met in wrestling, so that helps.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I met my wife, she'd been wrestling for 5 years, 6 years. I've been wrestling for less than a year. So we're both of the same mindset, and we did this pretty hot and heavy when we first started. When we first got together, so we understand the nature of the business. And when we came back, we still understood that the best way to achieve this is through balance. Like when we walk through the front door of this of our house, we're mom and dad. When we walk through that curtain, we're BMT and Ariel. But the two never coincide. So that's where the success comes from there.
That divide, I assume that's something that took a little bit of practice. Like that probably wasn't super easy to do at first, I assume, just because you put so much of your personality and energy into the characters that you create. I assume that's something that kind of came over time.
It came over time as
Yeah.
we matured,
Yeah.
especially as we matured in like the relationship and as adults. Because like in our first run back in the day, it was a little bit different.
Sure.
But after having kids and getting life in order
Yeah.
and everything, it all kind of we figured out. Okay, well, if we're gonna do this, there's boundaries. Like we do things together. We either agree. It's like kids. If one says no, it's no. That kind of thing. So we kind of learned to balance that and
Right.
bring it into wrestling.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So when we first started, we were more focused on being a couple that were two singles wrestlers.
Okay.
And there'd be times where I'd be, sending and I know this may sound archaic, but I'd be sending my resume and my highlight reel to promoters in the mail rather
Right.
than sending them 100 YouTube links. And I wouldn't get a call back, but she would get a call back for all these promotions. So I remember sitting in the crowd at like ROH and Jersey All Pro and Chikara and 2CW, like, holy crap, why can't I be here? So there was a little bit of a resentment when we first started, but when we came back, we realized that we're a couple who's a team, and the only way to do this the right way is if the team's in the forefront and the team's success is paramount. We're not here to be successful individually. I mean, that would be nice. Our main priority is to be successful as a team.
Right. Especially because when you're a family like we are, it's a very unique dynamic compared to other people. Like we're taking time away from the family, finding a babysitter or even bringing the kids with us. If we're gonna take away time from the family, like it's something we're gonna do together. That's why typically you don't see us at different shows unless it's like an all girl thing, like
Sure.
they don't have men or vice versa. Typically, we're always together because that's our time away. Like that's our date nights for us half the time. Or like sometimes it's what we do as a family. Like the kids know, oh, we have this show this weekend, and they know it's what we're all gonna do as a family. So if we were going to separate places, it just wouldn't really work. So it's just as a team, it's just easier that way, and we learned to kind of just stay on the same path. It made it and plus maturing and everything and having to keep everything as a family, it
Right.
is what it is. If we don't do it that way, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I tried to look up just to have some maybe comparable examples, and I mean, I'm sure I probably could have found one, but just Googling tag team partners that are also a married couple, it does not get you a lot of results. So it
Nope.
definitely seems to be a very unique thing. So dialing back the time dial a little bit, you talked about you both kind of started separately. So you met in wrestling, you were singles competitors. At what point did you look at each other and say, let's make this a tag team. Let's make this a driving force that we do together. as opposed to pursuing that singles competition? Because while I couldn't find many or any tag team couples that are married, there are plenty of famous wrestling couples where both partners pursue successful singles careers. So at what point were you guys like, let's make this a tag team, let's take over the tag team vision together and make it our thing?
So when we came back, I think there was a very big void for people from our time. I mean, when we were gone for 6 years, like we miss it, we skipped a generation. So when we came back, there was a lot of people who didn't know us, but wrestling had also changed in a sense that the people that we came up with had either moved on in life or are now on in mainstream wrestling. So I feel that that true essence was gone, especially in the tag team wrestling. Um, so when we got together and we came back in, and there when we came back, and there was such a huge emphasis on mixed tag team wrestling, which kind of started to dwindle down when we were winding down our last run. We knew the only way to be successful um, with this new generation and this new audience, and to be working at our absolute highest potential, was to be a tag team.
Well, that makes sense. It's definitely one of those things where I've seen you guys in action, and you do seem to elevate each other. So it makes sense that with that in-ring chemistry there, and being able to have that dynamic, it does set that bar higher for you guys. It gives you guys a higher goal to reach. And the characters are flawless. I absolutely love watching you guys in the ring. I love BMT's random stuff that he'll shut out. What was it? I think it was a couple months ago at this point now, and somebody had attacked Ariel, and he got all rowdy with him, and he's like, "Nobody hits my wife but me."
Yeah.
It was with Ace.
Yeah. Yeah, he likes to do that. He likes to throw me to the wolves.
That's
Nobody slaps my wife but me. I'm like, what?
that was that was that was a comment I made off the cuff. And when I came through the back, because I was managing for that match, I think it was Brian Logan, and it was just popped when he heard it. And I was just like, oh, I'm gonna say that all the time now. So now, no matter what I do, if like somebody's in the ring and they hit her, I'm like, no one kicks my wife but me. No one throws my wife around with me. No one punches my wife in the face but me. And it just gets a reaction every time. So hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
I think it's just one of those things where it's like it throws. They're like, "Did he just say that?"
Yeah.
So we'll throw in some questions from the live audience. Again, big shout out to you guys. Thank you so much. Jason Maverick, who was my guest last week, says, I've been watching both of you for some time and have absolutely loved your feud with Mike Graca?
Grassa.
Grassa. Who are some aspirations to work with in the future, whether it be chaotic, proving ground, etc.?
I mean, one team, if we're speaking team specifically, one team we want to get back in there with, where Bulk Bronson and Gabby Forza. We wrestled them once at a chaotic show back in January, and literally was probably the most fun tag match we've ever had.
It's good, like chemistry.
Such a good match, and they're such two good human beings. So when you wrestle somebody for the first time, and it's literally instant chemistry, not only in the ring but in the locker room as just a group of human beings. Yeah, that's bucket list. There's a lot of things we want to do in chaotic wrestling. First and foremost, chaotic wrestling tag team championships officially being in the history books as those tag team champions. There hasn't been a husband and wife couple who have won those championships. There hasn't been not too many intergender teams that have won those tag team championships. And it will be a huge, huge icing on the cake for us to be gone for so long, come back in less than 2 years, win those tag titles. So that's focus number one. Once we achieve that, which will be sooner rather than later, if you ask me, we'll be on to the next thing. But I want to focus on the primary stuff. I want to focus on winning those championships, putting it on my mantle. So when we sit in our throne in our castle, we can see the fruits of our labor.
That makes sense. And you guys have the opportunity to achieve that goal coming up this Friday. Just
That's right.
announced. There's a big old fatal four-way tag match. We'll talk about it a little bit later when we do the indie report, but that I was excited to hear about that. That is going to be a hell of a match. All four teams in that match are incredible performers, so it's going to be great to see. We have another question. Is it ever hard to watch your partner get smacked around in the ring?
God, no, absolutely not. No.
Excuse you.
It's called living vicariously through a coworker.
Excuse you.
Absolutely.
He's terrible. He's a terrible human.
There are times when I get dropped out of my head, and she's just like, good.
My favorite is when we're wrestling, and the annoyed wife in me comes out, and I sit there and I'm like, what an idiot. Why would you do that? Like things like that where he'll do something and I'm just looking at him like, really?
So the Mike Grassi character that Jason Maverick mentioned. So I've been wrestling with him up and down New England for probably since the beginning of 2024. And we had a 30-minute time limit draw for a promotion based out of Rhode Island called Renegade Wrestling Alliance, RWA. And it was a very on the fly match. There was a lot of stuff inside the ring, outside the ring. And I got a kick out of it when I watched it back, and all these stupid things that we're doing, instead of, like my wife, who's my partner and out there to support me, instead of her feeling sympathy for me, she just has her arms crossed, shaking her head in pure disgust, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, not even a hint of compassion. She's just like, you can literally see her on camera saying, you're an idiot. You know that.
Not to mention, there's been a few times where we did like, what do we call them? Like showcase type matches where we wrestle each other. And let me tell you, hitting your partner with cookie sheets is like the best therapy ever. You can literally hear a fan going, this is better than couples therapy. And it really is.
Every once in a while, BMT will do something.
You want to hit somebody with a cookie sheet? I get it.
He'll do something, and somebody in the crowd will be like, "Oh, he's sleeping on the couch tonight."
So the couch is the most comfortable piece of furniture I have in my house, sir.
We've got one more at the moment there was a response to your answer. The response was just cold.
Ice cold, sir.
Lock, Shock, and Barrel asks, what are you going to do if your kids want to be wrestlers?
I mean, the weird thing is we came back to wrestling because the kids stumbled upon a match that we had back in 2007. Funny story. We weren't dating yet. And we were both laying in the ring after getting laid out by Nikki Rocks. I remember rolling over and telling her, I was like, hey, I think I'm falling for you. And her telling me, shut up. And I was just like, oh, this is going great. So they watched that match and she beat the shit out of me. Oh, I'm sorry for my language.
You're fine.
So yeah, so it was great. So we didn't think they were gonna think too much of it beyond just seeing their mom and dad wrestle, but they are hooked. I don't know if people noticed, but we have a little banana that follows us everywhere. And she is very, very interested. Actually, I teach some classes at a local wrestling school on Mondays. And we were talking to the gentleman who owns the facility, and we were saying, hey, if the kids want to come and try to roll around and kind of get a feel for it, what do you think? Are they too young? He's like, hey, come send them down. And the banana was with us and her face lit up. So, if it happens, it happens. I will do everything in my power to make sure they take the right path, a path where they're completely invested and they're completely committed to it. Because it is a commitment. You can't become a good wrestler by just doing it once a weekend or, opening your own promotion, booking yourself in the main event, and there's only 10 people in the audience. So, so it's just one of those things. But first and foremost, get an education, go to school, get a degree, have a backup plan because you never know. I broke my back in 2012, and I was out for 3 years. I tried to come back, and I was gone for 6 years. But, I had an education. I had a really good career, and I was able to, provide for my family. So, yeah. So if they want to do that, I'm all set with it. And Mom and daddy just say they got to go to school.
Yep.
There you go. Let's see. Maverick again. I'd love to see y'all on Let's Wrestle. Have you guys had any contact with Randy Carver or anybody up this way in Maine?
So we're actually going to be making our debut in Maine in December for
You have to drive.
yes, Eastern Wrestling Alliance, EWA.
Yep.
That's something we've been trying to get in the calendar for a while. And it's just, stars have aligned, so I'm really excited. I think honestly, right now, the only one to check off the bucket list or the list in New England is Let's Wrestle and Limit Wrestling. That is definitely something that's on our radar, and we would love to do business with Randy and his promotions. Um, I honestly, I believe when we call ourselves the King and Queen of New England, that those are monikers that we earned, and we live very strongly by. And I think in order to come full circle with those monikers and live up to those monikers, you have to see us in those places. So hopefully sooner rather than later.
For sure. I will say, as photographer and videographer for EWA, when Booker told me that you guys were going to be coming, I was like, fuck yes. And as somebody who's been watching Limitless since 2016, and I never missed a show up till COVID, knowing the Limitless audience, you guys will flourish there. There's a lot of similarities between the Limitless audience and the Chaotic audience. Very loud, very rowdy, very passionate. So the Monarchy will definitely flourish at Limitless. And, Limitless can always use a new tag team. So it would be very, very cool. Let's see.
We have room on our mantles for more tag team titles. So
of
we're
course.
just a DM away.
Frog Splash 450 says, yeah, EWA Maine, they are awesome. Can't wait to see you guys there. So going back to discussing specifically about like the tag teaming and the career stuff like that, what would you say from, because obviously you guys are focused on the tag team. So we'll focus on that a little bit more. What would you say is the biggest highlight that you guys have had as a tag team, and then to mirror that, the biggest challenge you've had as a tag team? And we'll talk about specifically like in the ring. Like we already kind of covered the whole like in ring and life dynamic. So specifically in the ring, let's address those that way.
So I think
We can tell you the struggle.
well, yeah, you can go with struggle. I think honestly, the biggest thing was when we were teaming years ago. A lot of people used, the phrase used to be around "funny isn't money," and a lot of times people would say, and people weren't down for mixed tag wrestling back in the day like they are today. So a lot of times it wasn't really given the spotlight we felt it should have been if executed correctly. Coming back this time around and having mixed tag matches where the promoter will come up to us and say, "Hey, listen, that was match of the night," or "That was great." That really changed the dynamic of the show. That's the biggest thing inside the ring because, when you feel it in the ring and it can be accentuated to the audience and then the people in the back, I think that's the greatest accomplishment we can have in the ring when we're doing this. Struggles, I think it's really adapting at first to this newer generation. At the end of the day,
I think kind of going off of him, I think the bigger struggle is the fact that wrestling is a lot different, and a lot of tag teams that are out there wrestle a lot different than we do. Like I wrestle, especially like me. I'm old, showing my age, whatever you want to call it. But like I wrestle completely different, and I'm all character. Like he is more the in-ring stuff. I'm a lot more character. Together, we're great, you know. But then a lot of the time, we have to adjust when we have a team where they're all, for example, all in-ring stuff, and I'm like, we have to kind of like make it work. And not only that, we like even moves, for example, like our dynamic is different than others because we're a male and female team, Like other people are doing all these fancy things and all these like combos, and I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Right.
Like we're a husband and wife team. Like I don't wrestle like that. I would never do that in one of my matches. Why would I do that in a tag match?
Yeah.
Right.
So it's adapting to that too, because his style is a lot more like move heavy, if that makes sense. I'm not. So like adapting to that too is a little bit of a struggle.
Yeah, I think honestly, I mean, I'm not here to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty confident when I say when that bell rings, I can hold my own with whoever you put across the ring from me, as well as my wife.
I'm just saying, me too. You,
To say,
I just,
But
what,
one of the things that we were always taught on, and specifically one of the guys who's responsible for being a mentor for both of us, Jose Perez, it's moments over moves.
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
I would prefer to do those moves when they mean something and accentuate the moments, accentuate the idiosyncrasies and the body language and the expressions that can elicit a response from the crowd. I can go up there and, do 450s and double moonsaults and shooting stars. I can do all that stuff. But to have the people react from a look on my face or from a close call or from taking it away from the baby face, that's what I'm looking for more. If we have that, the moves will come.
Yeah.
And
you can teach anybody how to bump.
Exactly.
You can
And
teach anybody how to bump. You can't teach people, that getting the people in there.
I think that was the biggest thing to overcome because a lot of people are like moves, 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 moves. And at first it was a struggle, but then as we were around more and we were showing up more, you're like, hey, trust us on this. And it works. If we focus on the moments and make the moves a part of the moments rather than overshadowing the moments, then those people will pay their money every single month or every other week or whatever the frequency is to come see the same people wrestle in the same building or various buildings over and over and over again. It just works every time.
there's definitely something to be said about, the skill of the move set, the like Ariel said, the ability to take a bump, which is way harder than it looks.
I was gonna say you should know all about that now.
Right? But there's something about the charisma and something about the character. And I completely agree with BMT. And I will also give that credit to Ariel since he did.
Exactly. Thank you.
Sentence.
You go.
Yeah, let me finish my sentence, guy. Oh,
But-
geez, Louise, I've got my pillow and blanket on the couch already.
But the one thing I do love about watching you guys, and especially photographing you guys, is there is the over the top characters. Whether it's a facial expression or a reaction.
I was gonna say you get the best facial pictures ever. You really do.
Well,
you get all my weird faces. It's the best.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. But yeah, there's so much energy when you guys are in the ring. And it's always going to elevate whether you're in there with another seasoned tag team like the Neighborhood, who you guys have been having a really good feud with, or if you're in there with an up and coming team, like the Shooter Boys, for example. Not only do you guys carry your weight, but you also elevate it so much that you help other people look their best as well. And I think there's definitely something to be said for that. Going further with the questions, a lot of tag teams end up turning on each other and then making up. Is that something that you guys could see yourself doing where maybe like there's a little Ariel BMT feud where you guys go after each other?
That's literally the number one pitch we're given every time we get to a promotion. Hey, can you guys work each other? Hey, how would you guys feel about working each other? I think there is two moments that kind of we broke out when we came back. One of them was a Fight Life show in Rehoboth, Massachusetts, where Ariel had a sweet match with Ava Everett, and then I had my part in a really well laid out battle royal. And the following month, we did what was called a doghouse match, where it was for that same promotion, RWA, where we had a disagreement at the dinner table, and we decided the best way to resolve it, rather than with our words or through counseling, was to have a wrestling match. With ended with me taking a weed whacker to the ass, um, and literally from there, that is when our schedule picked up more and more and more. So we don't have to really worry about turning on each other, because I think the ultimate form of therapy for any married couple who's in our position is put us in the ring, ring the bell, and we're fine.
So, I mean, so that's interesting, right? Because we early on we talked about kind of that separation, but like, so, and you're talking like a YouTube personal life disagreement, and you're like, let's settle this in the ring.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And when it was presented to us, we were just like, yeah, as long as we can just, once the match is done, we're good. And they're like, oh yeah, you're just resolving an argument. I was like, sweet.
Well, you have to remember too, like at the end of the day, like even like storylines wise and everything else, whatever you want to call it, like with social media now, back in the day when when we were around, you wrestled in one town, you'd go like half hour away, people wouldn't know what's going on, and you could be in completely different, stories or whatever. Nowadays, like there's only so much we can do where we're gonna be in this huge storyline against each other because we're married. Like we're
Right.
married, we have kids. Like it's not like we're gonna completely split. So I mean, yeah, we could do the type of storylines where it's like we're gonna go in there, battle it out, and then okay, we're good. Let's go have dinner.
Right. There is an interesting element to that because you do bring up a really good point of social media and kind of like almost an always on lifestyle. It does
Yes, for
change
sure.
that. And one thing I've noticed, especially because for me, for so long, like I didn't even know Chaotic was there. Like I didn't know Limitless was there. I did a podcast back in the day, had a fellow podcaster as a guest. He's like, "Oh yeah, you should check out this Limitless promotion, yada yada." Uh, and I didn't even know it was a thing. But now that I have the privilege and honor of working for these companies, I see that there is some dynamic and change between some characters. And I wonder, because obviously I get to hang out with all you guys in the locker room area. So like I see the characters, I see the people, like I get an even different dynamic, right? But as the fans, like when you see like somebody come out at one promotion and everyone's swearing at them and screaming at them, and then at another promotion they're like, oh yeah, he's the hero. Like I wonder how social media plays into that. And to my perspective, it's like, oh, like you're just watching a different TV show. You know what I mean? Like like this actor is this character on this show, and it's the same thing with athletes in the ring. It might be a similar character, but so I think there is some element to that, but I think thankfully, I mean, obviously there's the wrestling fans that try to be too smart for their own good. Uh, but some of them, I think,
True.
they
True,
can
true.
get lost in the story and enjoy that. But, that makes sense. So a lot of the questions that were submitted via email, which thank you to everybody who did that, have been kind of answered organically over our little interview here. There was one that I wanted to bring up just because it is a thing, maybe not so much anymore, but especially where Ariel has a little bit longer of a wrestling career than BMT. What are some challenges that you face as a woman in professional wrestling, and maybe with the little bit longer of a career that you have, like what would you say has improved from when you started? And is there anything that you see that maybe it could continue going in a better direction into the future?
I think as far as what's improved would certainly be that there's a lot more girls. I mean, I can't even count how many, like, I can't keep track of how many new girls there is because, back when I was around, there was literally like probably four New England girls, or maybe five. And we all wrestled each other in every promotion, and that was it. And like, we would even travel out, and it was literally like a core amount of girls. Just like when we Shimmer, which ended up being so big after all those years, we had the original, like, I think it was like 8 or 9 girls, and that was all that there was in the country. So, as far as like improvement, I mean, there is a lot more girls, which is great. So there's a lot more acceptance, I think, from wrestling fans, and companies to have like more than one girls match. Um, Back in the day, girls were always an attraction. I mean, we still are to some extent, whether or not girls want to admit it. Um, but before it was like a strictly attraction thing. It was almost like um, I can't even like whatever kind of matches, weapons match, whatever special matches they would have.
Right. The mud
Nowadays, it's
wrestling
not.
and the bra and
Well,
panties matches.
yeah, like that. Like
The
that's
Attitude
all people
Era.
really cared about,
Right.
you know. But so that's a great, an improvement. As far as for me, it's just I've been around a long time, so I wrestle a lot different than a lot of the newer girls do, and even the guys. And like I, my husband and I even go about it where he's like, "This is just how it is, babe. Like you got to remember, like I'm more old fashioned about certain things. Like I'm okay with intergender wrestling, but there's still certain things that for me is a big no no. And then I'll see it in certain matches, and I'm like, why are we doing that? That makes zero sense because I come from the generation where our job is to make it look like it's a fight.
Right.
Like I tell guys who are wrestling me, I'm like, if we went in there and we threw down and I literally punched you in the face with all my might, yes, you're gonna feel it. But it's a guy that's double the size of me punches you with all his might. It's different. Like whether or not how strong I think I am, it's just different. And a lot of people is they wrestle the same way with one person that they do with everybody else. And you have to know who you're wrestling.
Right.
And for us, like I tell him all the time, I'm like, that doesn't work. Like I can't do that. Because in a fight I wouldn't do that. So that's a struggle for me because I think of the old fashioned where like back in the day, guys wouldn't even let girls get in the ring because they'd be like, if I slapped her, she'd go flying. How then now you have guys and girls going in matches where they're going like shot for shot or doing like 25 moves and then the girl gets up and does a power bomb and wins. And it's like,
Right.
oh wait. But next week you're gonna wrestle a guy that's double the size and you're gonna, it's just I don't know. I
Right.
overthink things. Maybe.
You
You know,
get like an Ashley Vox going over like a Donovan Dijak, and like
right.
which still you remove the gender
I mean,
and
it can
it's
happen.
right.
It can absolutely, but it has to be like you have to tell a story and
Right.
make it make sense.
Right.
Like when I wrestle guys, I tell them, you can do whatever, but like if you go out there and you beat me up like you would a 200-pound guy, then it makes no sense because I'm so much smaller than you.
Sure. And if you remove the gender from that, it's no different than like when it was
It's not even a
Mysterio
gender.
versus
It
Kevin
doesn't even have to
Nash.
be gender. It's like a giant
Right.
guy with a tiny lightweight.
Right,
Makes no
exactly.
sense.
So that brings one more question to my mind, which we'll use to kind of close out the official interview portion. I mean, we'll still be talking and asking questions, but uh, so you both have been in the industry for some time. And, at this point, like you guys are on this podcast, you're being interviewed, and you're you're relaxed, you're in character, but you're not, right? And this is something that would have been blasphemy 15 years ago, 20 years ago, because you kept kayfabe. You kept it up. Like you didn't do public appearances without being in character. I mean, I've heard stories about how like way back in the day, like heels and faces couldn't stay in the same hotels, they couldn't fly on the same planes because they had to keep up the illusion, or at least they felt like they did. Um, what as people that have been in the industry for a good amount of time, how do you guys feel? Like, do you like the fact that you can chat with fans and interviewers like myself and be like, hey, like that's what we do, but this is kind of a bit of who we are, and or do you think something's missing from professional wrestling where like that it's almost like a magic trick where you're kind of sort of seeing the other hand move, but not quite.
I think wrestling has gotten to a point where we can no longer just gleefully insult the consumer's intelligence. There was a point in time where, people thought The Undertaker was really dead, and they thought, Kane really died in a fire, and he can shoot lightning bolts from his hand. It's just one of those things. And, people thought Papa Shango legitimately put a spell on the Ultimate Warrior. We all thought that was real, but we suspended belief. But as wrestling evolved with the times that we're in, and now we're in a generation where everything's such a quick hit and people need all this information in a 30-second or a minute reel or a TikTok video, but they need to consume all the information because they need to be subject matter experts about it. I think we've gotten to a point in wrestling where we can no longer convince the people that we are a walking, talking Marvel movie. Okay.
You have to keep up with the times.
We have
it's
to
the
keep,
same thing with actors.
We have to keep up with the times. I'm pretty sure if somebody goes to a Comic-Con and sees Tom Holland, they're not going to expect him to climb up a wall and sling webs from his hand. They're going to understand that this is the gentleman who plays a character. But I am such enamored with it, and I love the genre, that I will suspend my disbelief from the opening credits to the ending credits because this is something I enjoy. Wrestling is the same exact way. We are walking, talking live action theater where when the bell starts and, when we're at Chaotic and Rich Palladino says, let the chaos begin until the final bell rings, that's an escape for people. They suspend their disbelief. But they also know that it is a live theater performance with, drama and action and even a very, very small hit, a small hint of realism and a very large amount of storytelling. They understand that. And it puts us in the position to be able to be BMT and Ariel, but also interact with them as people. We appreciate the people who, come out to the shows all the time and spend their money, especially in, modern day economies and everything going on in the world. But we also respect the fact that if they're willing to invest the money to come see us and watch our matches and comment on our matches and watch us, we're on podcasts or follow us on social media, the least we can do is adapt with the time in wrestling where it is today. And for me, that's not insulting people's intelligence.
I always tell everybody, when the spandex is on, I'm Ariel. When it's off, it's like I'm Clark Kent. When it's not, then I'm back to my normal self. So a lot of times I was just telling you this at, it might have been the last Chaotic show, where I'm like, I'm the worst because I'm out there, shut up, you're this, you're that. At the end of the show, I come out in my jeans and my t-shirt. Somebody's like, great match. I'm like, thank you so much. Thanks for coming. At the end of the day, like, these people are supporting us, like he said,
Right.
they pay attention to see you, you know.
Right.
I think I think
They also know to stay away, though.
yeah, I think kayfabe officially died when Shawn Michaels took his hat off and he was bald, and Undertaker is doing Blue Chew commercials. I'm done. I'm officially done.
I think the moment that for me, even as a kid, was the Undertaker Yokozuna match, where the Undertaker rose out of the casket and had this big, like, electrical storm resurrection.
Dude, I was there.
You were there?
I was 5. I peed my pants. I'm not afraid to tell that story. I was scared shitless in that damn audience.
I was looking and I was like,
That's embarrassing.
That's not embarrassing.
Don't tell people that story.
I was 5.
Babe.
I was 5.
Come on.
I was 5.
People are gonna be like BMT pees his pants.
5. Okay. Did you watch
all
that
right,
match?
so anybody
I didn't
listening,
pee my pants.
I want a sign at the Chaotic show on Friday that says BMT pees his pants.
Don't play. It'll probably be the banana holding it.
All right. Well, we do still have a little bit more show to get to. I do want to thank you guys for all the information and all the talking and all of the great tidbits and the question answering. It's been a real pleasure to be able to hang out and interview and get to know you guys a little bit more. And I'm excited that you guys volunteered to stay on for the full show, because this next part I really want to talk with you guys about, which was me getting the shit kicked out of me in the academy. So
Awesome.
it was fun. It was an absolute blast. And I went down the New England Pro Wrestling Academy based in Andover, Mass. It is the official school of Chaotic and Rad Pro. It's a very, very popular school. It's a school with a massive, massive legacy. So many great names have come out of there, and they do a fantasy camp twice a year. And I, at 40 years old, decided I'm gonna go see what it's like to be a professional wrestler. And as I said, kind of towards the top, like I knew, like it's a story, it's theater, like you guys said, but it still hurts, and you're still
Oh
putting
yeah.
yourself on the line. Uh, and I don't think I realized how much. And
Man.
it was fun, and I don't regret it, but I gained, and I told BMT this earlier today in a message when we were discussing details. I'm like, I have gained even more respect and appreciation for what you guys do, because it's a toll, and for doing it for so long. But it's a blast. It was all basics. It was all just kind of, it was an appetizer, as Chase Del Monte put it, one of the trainers there. And, we got some rope stuff, some basic bump stuff like that. Uh, and anyone
Is
who's
your back
interested,
hurt from the ropes?
oh yeah, I got a bruise across my back.
I would
Uh,
say you must have a bruise. 'Cause that everybody gets the like
oh yeah,
anniversary bruise.
yeah. So I've got a bruise across my back. For anyone that doesn't know, those ropes, those are not bungee cords.
Oh,
Those
they
are
hurt.
those are braided cable. And the ring that I was in and went off the ropes, it was braided cable, and the only thing that was cushioning was the garden hose that the cable was going through. Um, and then, yeah, I got taught how to take a proper bump to the mat by Ricky Smokes. That was a lot of fun, and I got to get clotheslined over the top rope by Milo Mira. So that was definitely a cool moment. But I want to touch a little bit on that experience, uh, and we won't take too long with it because we are coming up to time, and I want to make sure I plug the shows coming up. But when you guys first started, obviously you were wrestling fans, and you were like, "I want to do this." Like when you got into the training in the schools, and you took your first bumps, hit the actual real ropes for the first time, do you guys like remember like what your thoughts were when you were like was it like a ooh, like this is gonna be rough? Or like what was that thought that you guys kind of had? And just maybe a couple sentences, like just an idea of what went through your head.
It sucked.
Yeah.
it, it sucked massively. The gentleman who began my training was actually Slick Wagner Brown. He was trained by Killer Kowalski, which was eventually the evolution that begun down to NEPA that we are at today. And, I bumped, I hated it. And then he told me to get up and do it again, and told me to get up and do it again, and told me to get up and do it again. But it was the consistency. I didn't like it at first, but I learned to appreciate it. And when I learned to appreciate it, I learned to accept it and went on from there.
It just hurt. That's all I remember. It hurt. I was like, ow, what was I thinking? But then I went back, and then I kept going back, and here we are.
The rest is history.
Of course.
Yeah, Chase said at the fantasy camp yesterday, he said you haven't taken your first bump until you've taken your first 1,000. And then it's
Yeah.
after your first, and then your next 1,000 is your second bump. And it's just, he's like, it's a lot of it is rewiring the brain and just convincing yourself that your body is supposed to feel this way.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
You just learn to deal with the hurt. You're good.
It must make
Perfectly
daily
normal
life.
throwing yourself on your back.
It must make daily life not hurt that much. You're like, I bumped my elbow, I'm fine.
Yeah, that's why we have like such high pain tolerance.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why you think I popped out six kids. It's fine. I bumped a million times. I can do this.
I suppose that's fair. That's the trick. If you want childbirth to be a little bit easier, train to be a professional wrestler.
There you go.
Same thing.
That could be a slogan.
Same thing.
So for everybody listening, thank you guys so much. If you didn't know who the Monarchy was and you have become a fan of theirs thanks to this, that is awesome. If you are a fan and you want to know where you can find them, there's a bunch of shows coming up over the next week and a half. We'll highlight a little bit of that here. We talked about it about half hour ago or so. We've got the big Fatal 4-Way Tag Team match It is the Monarchy versus PV Drago versus Calvin and Spike and the defending tag team champions who just recently got their belts back. Like they haven't lost them, but they didn't have them.
Nice. Nice.
The
Real champs
neighborhood.
right here.
So this is a huge match. This is something that BMT and Ariel, the Monarchy, have been going for a while in Chaotic now. It has been, challenge after challenge. You guys have had to go over mountains, go over molehills, like just try and get there. What does this Fatal 4-Way match mean to you guys? And how excited are you for Friday?
I think this is going to be the last chance because listen, when we came to Chaotic Wrestling, the tag team division was practically in hospice, and we gave it a jolt in the ass. To be pretty honest, the neighborhood beat a team that was on life support. They shouldn't be resting their hat on that. Plain and simple. The fact that we've been married to them the last couple months is a favor to them. Come Friday, what we're going to do is we're going to end that favor, take those championships and move on and bring the Chaotic Wrestling tag team division back to where it was one of the best divisions in the entire country. And it's going to be done at the hands of the Monarchy.
You heard it here from BMT calling his shot that the Monarchy is going to be determined to walk away with the tag team belts on Friday. If you are in the New England area or the Massachusetts area, Chaotic Wrestling Summer Chaos this Friday, September 13th. Do not miss it. If you are not in the New England area, you can watch it live on Twitch, twitch.tv/chaotic wrestling. So definitely go there. I will be there. If you go and you see me, say hello. I'll be doing ringside photos, as always. Fucking love my job. But that is not all you're going to see at Summer Chaos. It's going to be the New England Championship is going to be on the line. Brand new New England champion, Trigger the OG, going up against TJ Crawford. We talked about this match last week when it happened, and it was a 30-minute fatal 4-way match. Trigger the OG came out on top, but Trigger the OG did not get a pinfall over TJ Crawford, and TJ Crawford is not happy about that. So he is getting his shot at the championship this Friday. We also have the Panoptic Championship on the line. Aggro, current Panoptic champion who ended the reign of the longest running Panoptic champion, Paris Van Dale, going up against worldwide sensation, the alternative Anthony Green. I have spent years watching both of these competitors in the ring. This is not going to be a match that you want to miss. And of course, new father, congratulations to JT Dunn, is going to be making his Chaotic Wrestling return. First time in the ring as a dad, defending his Chaotic Heavyweight Championship against Mr. I Want My Flowers, Richard Holiday. So Chaotic Wrestling, Summer Chaos. See these two. See me. I'm not as impressive, but you'll see me. And see everybody else. And then I also do want to do some other plugs for some upcoming events because Chaotic, as amazing as they are, is not the only promotion. If you are not in the Massachusetts area, but you are closer to the Maine area, also Friday night, NAWA Pro Wrestling is going to be at Gino's in Portland, Maine. It is going to be the retirement match for the Flash Nick McKenna going against Cocky Kyle, and Spitfire Jesse Nolan is going to be going up against Asana. And I do believe if he's still in chat, you're also going to see... Jason, are you at that show? You'll have to let me know. I know you're an NAWA regular, so if you're still in chat, please let me know if you're going to be there, and I will give it a shout out. I think last week you said you were. We also have Beyond Wrestling coming up this Saturday, Stone's Throw. It's going to be Slade versus Bryce Donovan, Drew Gulak versus Tyree Taylor, and Bobby Orlando and 50 Cal versus Paris Van Dale and Davien. And then to bring it back to BMT, we've got two more matches coming. Well, BMT and Ariel, I should say, because these are both tag matches, correct? Mm-hmm. Yes, they are. At Renegade Wrestling Alliance Encore, September 14th, we've got the Dirt City Murder Crew versus the Monarchy. And I have obviously seen you guys. I've seen DCMC. They were at the first EWA show that I photographed. Great dudes, incredible in-ring talent. This is not going to be a match to miss. And then the following Wednesday, shout out to Frankie because he kicks ass. Fight Life Vicious Cycle, September 18th. We are going to have a championship match between Ricky Smokes and current champion Richard Holiday. We are going to have DJ Powers versus Alec Price and Eric Chacha versus Mortar in a choose your opponent match. Let's give a shout out to BMT's t-shirt for a second. Powers.
Hold on, wait. Can we see it in the camera? Hold on.
You
Do
can
I have
see
to
it.
shift?
Yeah.
I like DJ Powers, by the way.
He's a
But
great dude,
my boy
man.
Frankie put this out, and I talked to Big Gary and said, Frankie, if you put one out, I'll buy one.
I gotta get one
DJ
too.
Powers, he's a cool kid, man. He's a cool kid. He's very talented, but I had to get the shirt, man. I like Cha Cha too.
You gotta have fun. And it's you're being a heel. Like people are gonna give you shit. Like it's part of the fun of doing it, right? And then also at Fight Life, last but not least, because we can't leave this one out. Two of them are you guys, but all four of the people in this match are phenomenal. It's the Monarchy versus Miracle Generation. And in my opinion, two of the biggest tag teams in the New England area. I'm not just saying that because you're here.
Thank you.
But seriously, that's going to be a hell of an event. So again, that's Fight Life Vicious Cycle Wednesday, right? Wednesday, September 18th. So that's what's coming up. That's me getting my ass kicked, and that's the Monarchy. So again, big shout out to you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining me. It's been a lot of fun. Can't wait to see you guys in action on Friday. And it's great. Like,
You sure you don't want to keep wrestling?
No.
You sure don't want to go wrestle so you can be across the ring from us?
It would be great, but it's not you guys, it's me.
Not you.
As always, a big shout out to the live audience. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you for all the questions, and thank you for participating. To have such great support of such a new show is really awesome as a content creator. I think I said that last week too, but it reigns true. Like it really is awesome. Thank you to the recorded podcast listeners, the YouTube viewers, all of you. There is a new way that started this week to support the show. If you guys wish to do so, patreon.com/New England WrestleCast. There's not a whole bunch of bells and whistles. There's not a whole bunch of different tiers. It's one tier. If you would like to support the show, it gets you ad-free viewing, ad-free video, or ad-free viewing, ad-free listening, and a shout out on the show. No pressure. You don't have to, but if anyone wishes to, it's greatly appreciated. But that will do it for episode 2 of New England WrestleCast. So I want to give one more well-deserved shout out to BMT and Ariel. Thank you guys so much. And hopefully I have you guys on again in the future. We'll chat about some more stuff.
Sounds good.
Awesome. For the Monarchy, for myself, and for wrestling fans everywhere, thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you guys next week.